Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're
Monday. It is a miscellaneous Monday, I would say. We're going to go everywhere from wrestling to basketball to baseball to even softball. I even watched a little golf. I know, shoot me now, but it was an eventful sporting weekend, I would say, but
it's eventful without being eventful,
Yeah.
which is the weird thing about it. It was so uneventful that ESPN was running with a 40-point dominating win from the WNBA yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of you watch SportsCenter. That don't happen. Much like they don't talk about the Atlanta Falcons and many, many other teams as well because they don't draw attention. WNBA is probably on the bottom of ESPN's list to cover, although it has picked up since Caitlin's been there.
And softball.
Well, that's also true. But I mean, the softball thing is more of a controversy. So that's why everybody's talking about that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But in terms of basketball, the only major thing we need to talk about is obviously Game 6 that happened on Saturday as the Indiana Pacers, dominated the Knicks from top to bottom in Indiana, at Indiana, however you want to say it. 125-108 was the final score. Me and Sparky got to watch this game together before heading to the Raceway to check out the Battle of the Harvicks.
And a big shout out to Michelle and Kevin and everybody that assisted us getting Harvick on the show last week. Plus, we got to take JR, so we got to go out to the races and in perfect time.
Absolutely. We got to see the whole race, or at least between Kevin and Keelan, which was very entertaining. Unfortunately, Kevin got spun out in the last 5 laps, which I think was on purpose. I'll get to that in a second. I was
starting to think that too.
I think that was on purpose. I think the competition said, "Hey, let's help the kid out. Let's knock Dad out of the race real quick." I don't know. This is all speculation, obviously. It was a great race, though. It was a lot of fun. If you were out there, I'm sure you had just as much fun as we did. But we'll get into all of that when we get to it. I don't know. Spark, let's start with this basketball game because I know me and you were watching together and we both had the same frustrations throughout the game. But it seemed to me, and I think the Pacers have benefited from this throughout the series, but the Knicks gave up on defense way too often in this game. There were many, many situations where I was watching and switches weren't happening on three-pointers, specifically from Karl Anthony Towns.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got to a point where the Pacers got every single open look they wanted at the end of this game. You kept it close throughout, really. I mean, the final score does not really dictate how close this game was, at least at halftime into the third quarter. But, I mean, what say you, my friend? I know Jalen Brunson was very much one of those players that they desperately needed to step up. He only had 18. I mean, Pascal Siakam on the opposite end had 31 and absolutely dominated the game. I cannot understand why the Knicks came out the way they did, especially knowing that this was a winner-go-home game. So I don't know. If you were a Knicks fan, I think you left Game 6 very disappointed.
They didn't have the energy. The defense has always been a problem with Cat, I think. But, yeah, they came up short, and, they needed more. I would say a lot of what I saw was Hart in the last couple games.
Yeah.
He was just shooting himself in the foot, stupid fouls, missed layups.
Stupid shots. Really.
Cat, same thing. Missed trying to shoot from half court. Those three-pointers can be a little more successful if you get closer to the line. But he also gives up a lot of points. He doesn't guard, and I was expecting them to come out hungry like they did in Game 5, where we actually saw Cat play defense, and they weren't giving up the easy shots, and it shot them.
Honestly, the starting 5 for the Knicks at least somewhat stepped up. Almost everybody was in double figures outside of Mitchell Robinson, but you don't expect Robinson to score in double figures, to be fair. Although he was the unsung hero of this game. That guy did everything he could to grab every offensive rebound and keep the Knicks at least with the ball. and was easily double, triple teams under there to try to get the ball out of his hand. He could not be stopped to grab these rebounds. My biggest issue has always been Karl Anthony Towns and his effort on defense, specifically the closeouts, the lack thereof when it comes to three-point shooters. I mean, there are multiple instances, not just in this game, but the entire series and the series before, where he should have closed out on a guy and gotten a block. But instead, he just kind of said, he's going to miss. And then he drains it. And then what happens? It's like, dude, you got to play defense more than this. You came out with a fire in game 5 that gave everybody hope, including Ben Stiller, who was calling out Tyrese Halliburton before the game, saying glad he brought his duffel bag for the trip back to New York.
Oh, God.
This is what I'm talking about, guys. Timothy Chalamet, I think, was the only New York fan that actually traveled to Indiana to witness this. I don't think Spike Lee was there for this one. At least I didn't see him on
I didn't
TV.
see him either.
But when you're watching the Knicks play and all the talent that they have, it really it's weird to see that coaches like Tom Thibodeau are getting out-coached by guys like Rick Carlisle. Not to say that Thibodeau or Carlisle are vastly different than each other on the coaching spectrum. They're both really good coaches. But Carlisle was just able to find a way to really punish the Knicks for having both Karl and Brunson on the court at the same time, because nobody else was really getting involved that often. OG Anunoby had probably his best game of the series on Saturday. He had 24 points, but even then, he seemed like he was still an outlier when it came to the ball, like a third or fourth option. And as Sparky said, I mean, we watched Karl Anthony Towns throw up three-pointers from the logo. It's like, dude, you haven't, I get you're a great shooter, but you haven't figured it out yet. The reason you guys won game 5 was because instead of taking those shots, you put your shoulder down, you drove on these guys, you got the fouls and the free throws, and you made those free throws.
That was going to be the other one, because they missed so many free throws.
So 7 at least, I'm pretty sure, in the second half. And I'm like, we were watching the game, and I could not believe just how easy the Pacers made this look. And again, I know I've said this a million times that I hate the cherry picker offense of the Pacers and how it works. But when you're playing a team like the Knicks, who just for some reason refuse to slow the game down, even though that's where they do the best, is when the game is slower, they would rather play you at your pace. That doesn't make much sense to me at all, especially when the Pacers are literally getting a rebound, throwing it down to Obi Toppin on the other side of the court for a dunk. It's like, I get that's frustrating, but you need to slow the game down if that is the case. You can't play to the Pacers' pace, otherwise they're just going to run you out of the gym.
Yeah, we've seen that in the whole series. The only time they were in it was when they played the half court. And, that brings up 2 questions, because one was, which I'll go to Brunson, but is Tibbs the right guy, and is his job safe in New York?
Jalen, when you talk about the confidence, obviously, I feel like nobody takes more criticism than Tom. And this team obviously has turned around during his tenure. Do you kind of feel that going forward, he's the same guy to lift you guys the rest of the way at next level?
Is that a real question right now?
I mean, every time I turn on ESPN.
You just asked me if I believe that if he's the right guy. Yes.
And see, that just brings up the topic that I wanted to get into with you, because you're a basketball guy, and we've talked about Tibbs, the minutes and which I have to give him props, because in this series he slowed it down.
Yeah, he didn't do it,
and he let the bench players play. But do you blame the energy that some of these players don't bring, or do you bring it? Is it the coaching?
No, honestly, I think he got out-coached, but I don't think that should lose him his job. I think this series in general, or at least this playoff run, saved Tom Thibodeau's job. I genuinely do. I think
getting by the Celtics, or just making it a series?
Getting by the Celtics, and the entire run in general.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people were kind of thinking coming into this was going to be the year everyone exploited the minutes problem for the Knicks, and including me. I came into this saying, they played too many minutes on their starters, which is true, but he shifted that. He absolutely learned from that, and he learned, okay, let's lower those minutes and get some of these other guys in the game, and maybe I'll have some legs to be able to, play defense. But I think that this series saved Tom Thibodeau's job, I apologize, in a sense that he has shown that he can at least make adjustments and get you there. Because they were right there. I mean, if you really want to make or at least make comparisons, the Pacers were in the exact same situation the Knicks were in this year. last year. They got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, obviously got bounced by a better team. And now they have to go home and wonder, okay, what can we do to improve to make this happen again next year? And you have a great coach. Rick Carlisle for the Pacers is a fantastic coach. And obviously he knew what he needed to do to make the adjustments to get them there. And they didn't have pieces like Matherin and all these other guys on the team last year. So they made those adjustments in the offseason. They got there. I think the Knicks could do the exact same thing as long as you're willing to make those adjustments in the regular season. And your players have to make the right adjustments for themselves and grow, because guys like Josh Hart, who are beloved in New York and are not going anywhere, you have the effort plays from him. But like we talked about, his shooting was poor. I mean, he only shot 6 shots, granted, but every single one of those shots were ugly as sin. It was like Tim Tebow throwing a football.
Just forced shots.
It was forced. It was like, dude, don't take those. Get it to somebody who can make it. Get it to your best friend, Jalen. Find Cat underneath. Even Mitchell. I don't care who it is, but you know you're not having a good day. And I get that in basketball, you shoot yourself out of slumps. But that's where I think the not only himself as a player needs to kind of take that into account, but a coach does need to step in and say, hey, you need to stop shooting the basketball. But back to Thibodeau, I don't believe his job is in jeopardy. I agree with Jalen. It's a ridiculous question now. I think that he saved his job. However, next year, if you have any kind of a slide, or if you say have a Doc Rivers kind of situation where you lose in the first round, now we're back
gone
on the hot seat. Now you're sitting there thinking, okay, this guy's not the coach we thought he was. And maybe it was the talent that got us here. So I think that he saved his job at least for a year or two, but it depends on how it really boils down next season.
Well, before we get into, I pulled this clip from John Wall and what he thinks the New York Knicks have to do this offseason. But overall, was it a success this season?
For the Knicks?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A step forward at least?
Absolutely. Beating Boston made this a successful season. But that's kind of the problem, is we talked about this before coming into the Indiana Pacers series. When you have all of your hope around beating Boston, and that seems to be your NBA Finals, there's a problem.
Yeah.
You need to have vision of the trophy, not of beating specific teams.
So it almost feels like they're a year behind the Pacers.
Exactly.
Well, this is John Wall talking about what he thinks the Knicks have to do this offseason.
I love Tibbs. Tibbs do a great job. I think they have a great team. They did a lot of great things this year. I think you got to just play the bench a little bit more, you know what I mean? I think if they would have played the bench a little earlier, some of those guys' legs would have felt a lot better and would have not felt so much like they was fatigued or not. They fought and made it a great chance to come back. But, yeah, you got to make some adjustments. I think they make a couple adjustments. For me, I don't think you trade Cat. I think Cat had a great year. He wasn't great defensively, but that's never been Cat big calling card. And also you got him playing the 5, which gave you advantage on the offensive end. But on the defense end, it kind of hurt you a little bit. And I think when they went with Mitchell Robinson at the 5, it gave him a little bit of more help. But, yeah, I think they'll make some changes. I just don't know which ones yet. But I think they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. This is a very talented team. And honestly, Karl Anthony Towns, if you could just figure out how to get him to stop with these dumb fouls throughout the game and arguably stop playing like Joker. Because I think that's really what happened is in his last couple of years with Minnesota, especially when they got Rudy Gobert, he got used to playing as that up top 4 rather than the big man 5. You need to get him back to being a big man. You need to get him back to being under, not necessarily purely under the basket. Let him drip out every so often, but you have to get him at least used to being a rough and tumble big man again if you have any chance of getting it back to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the finals next year. Because that is really where I believe the team was successful, is when they had Jalen Brunson doing his thing and Karl Anthony Towns was beating him up underneath. That was the easiest way for the Knicks to win. Right there.
When he was going inside the key, he was getting his. But no, I just bring that question up because I know a couple of weeks ago it was the Knicks with Giannis talk.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen personally, but I know the major topic throughout, just talking Knicks is if they're going to break up this Villanova team or if they keep them together, because there's obviously a missing spot. I don't know if it would be Bridges coming in and being the 5 and moving Cat, or I don't know. I have a couple of Knicks friends that think that it's over, that they're gonna break up the Nova team.
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to blow this up just
They're
yet.
young.
Yeah, I think that honestly, you're fine. Just give it another year. I don't think you really need to move away from Bridges and Brunson. Brunson for sure. Brunson and Towns need to stay. But I mean, if they feel they can get a piece like Giannis, though, I feel like you make that move because any kind of superstar like that is worth making a move for. I'm thinking the same thing for Cleveland. If Cleveland ever got an opportunity to make a move for Giannis, I would say do it in a heartbeat. Although I wouldn't like to see pieces like Evan Mobley or Jared Allen or any of those guys leave, but it's just something that you would need to do to get a superstar like that can get you to the finals. So I wouldn't say no to a big name piece like that. But if we're talking about a mid-range guy or like a mid-tier guy, like a Buddy Hield or something like that, somebody that's just going to add some depth, I wouldn't blow up the ship just yet. That's ridiculous.
Well, we'll take a break right now. We'll talk about the Pacers and the OKC Thunder. What we see and what we think our prediction is. Feel free to text or call in anytime. 661-842-2000. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Not metal enough.
The diet version. It's the diet Coke of metal.
This is true. This is very, very true. I have to put new metal in that category, although it's still beloved, very much beloved. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We got our NBA Finals set. I don't think anybody was very surprised when we left on Friday. This was going to be the matchup, but we got the Thunder against the Pacers starting on Thursday. Correct. Thunder have won the series in the regular season 2-0 in pretty handed fashion, to be honest with you. This is going to be an interesting series. I'm not sure how competitive it's going to be, at least in my opinion. The defense of Oklahoma City is just incredible. You have 4 to 5 guys that honestly could have been all defensive honored. 2 of them were Chet Holmgren, Alex Caruso, Hardenstein, all those guys. They're all fantastic as well. It's going to be really interesting to me to see if Tyrese can make the Pacers offense work against this defense. I think you can come out and maybe sneak game 1 and surprise the young team. But in terms of getting 4 out of 5 in the next, couple games, it's going to be really, really difficult to stop the Thunder from really making the adjustments. We've seen it multiple times. When they lose one game, they come back with every answer and just make it look effortless. So I don't know exactly if the Pacers are going to get maybe 1 or 2 games in this series.
That's what I was thinking.
I'd love
if
to see it go 7.
I would love it. I would have loved to see the Knicks and Pacers, but I think that was our Eastern Conference. I think that was the series to watch.
Yeah.
I think OKC is going to be tough to beat more than once.
I can't see them sweeping the Pacers, though.
I could see it, but I don't want to see it.
I think the Pacers have enough heart and enough power, or at least skill on the team, where everybody can make a contribution and make it difficult for the Thunder to at least keep them at bay. But I think the Pacers at least win 1 or 2 games in this series.
Well, we have a listener that texted in, said Pacers in 6.
I would honestly, I'd love to see the Pacers win, but I really just, the ability that this Thunder team has, not only on defense, but on offense as well. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not the MVP for no reason. Jay Williams has been fantastic.
Chet
has
watch Chet.
I cannot stand watching this man play.
Me too. But
he is a sloth.
He amazes me every time, man.
It's incredible basketball. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, but like the pace he has to play at in order to be productive on offense, just it's incredible that how slow it can get.
What'd you call him, a sloth?
He's a sloth. He's absolutely Sid the Sloth. Anybody who's watched Ice Age, he's Sid the Sloth. Okay,
I can see that.
But he is great. He's fantastic, and he's one of the best bigs in the league. And he's going to be he's going to get even better. That's the craziest part about it. But I do agree with you. I mean, don't take a book out of the Slim Reaper here. Let's get some meat on the bones. I just
drink that milk.
For me, the keys of this series are going to be how the Pacers offense works against this defense, and vice versa, how the defense of the Thunder are going to at least try to slow down a fast-paced offense. Because if we've seen anything with the Pacers, they've come out and beat teams that they should not be beating. Let's be honest. They shouldn't have beat Cleveland, and they shouldn't have beat the Knicks, but they are, and they're doing it handily because they're able to get to the other side of the court so quickly and make you tired. And if you're not a deep team, fortunately for the Thunder, they are. But if you're not a deep team,
you need a plan B.
Yeah,
because doing what they did with the Knicks and the Cavs is not going to work.
No,
with OKC. But this is Udonis Haslem, and what he thinks the Pacers will need to do to make this a series.
Use that chip on your shoulder. Use that chip. Listen to everybody saying you don't have a chance. Use everything you have, and then go in there and be who you are. You're not going to get to the finals and reinvent the wheel. You want to run. You want to get out. You want to create confusion. You want to get out in transition. You want to get easy buckets. In the half court, you want to play through Halliburton and Siakam. You want to let your role players be stars, and you need some guys to step up and have some X factors.
Now, outside of Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we all know those two are going to be the highlight of this series. Who do you think is going to be the biggest players that need to step up for their teams in order for this to actually work out?
Well, I mean, I think Jalen will be solid. Chet is my guy. I'm going to keep an eye on Chet because I think what the big boys in Indy where, where Cat was just pushing him over. I think Chet can do the same thing.
Mhm.
And OKC is so fast, and I think their defense is going to win that championship. I would be surprised if it didn't end in 5, but I'm hoping for more, obviously, because I want an entertaining, NBA Finals.
Well, everybody does.
But I think Halliburton is going to have to lead that team. And I know he didn't in a couple games in New York where he would kind of take the night off and let he is more of he's not like the SGA where he's going to, put up 20, 30 shots in a game. Halliburton's going to have to.
Yeah.
And I think if that's going to be a series, I think that's what we're going to see.
I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is going to get his point. It's going to be much like Jalen Brunson. We're going to see him go off for 20 to 30 almost nightly. I think it's easy to say that Jalen Williams will probably be the main focus for the Thunder to get going because he really is their second option and has grown to be a superstar in his own right. Personally, I think the big one is going to be Alex Caruso and Hardenstein. I think those two are going to be massive in this series because of their defensive play. Not to mention, Alex has been here before, or Alec, I apologize. Caruso has been here before. He's won a ring, obviously, in the bubble with the Lakers. And he really is the unspoken leader of this crew. Like, everybody leans on him when it comes to, like, things getting hairy. Like, they kind of say, what can we do? And then Alec will be the first one to step up probably and say, we got to do this. And I think that he's going to easily be that guy to do that in this series. And you need those guys off the bench to really slow down this Pacers team because we've seen guys the opposite end of this, the two key players for me for the Pacers are Naismith and Neihardt, the two guards, because when the Pacers play well, it's when those two are playing well. When Naismith was hitting those 3-pointers and absolutely drowning the Knicks in bringing the Pacers back in that incredible comeback game early in last series, that was otherworldly. And if you can keep that going, if you can get him hot like that again, not to mention with people like Tyrese and Turner and Pascal Siakam most likely in the double digits already, it's going to be really hard to beat a Pacers team that scores 130, 140 points. Luckily for you, if you're a Thunder fan, I know there's not a whole ton of them here, but if you're a Thunder fan, your offense can keep up because obviously you guys have done this before and you've scored 130, 140 points on multiple occasions. So I don't know. This is going to be a really interesting series. I am with you, though. I have to go with the Thunder. I don't see the Pacers making it out of this series, although I would love to see them win their first championship in program history or in organization history. But it looks like the chip will be going to Oklahoma City for the first time since moving to Oklahoma City, because let's not forget they were the Seattle Supersonics at one point. So,
and we got another text says Halliburton is going to go off in game 1 after not winning the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. He looks pissed. So I'm glad he brought that up because
I totally thought that was hilarious.
When he started to walk up, I'm like, ouch.
I'm like, Tyrese, I love you, dude. I really do. And don't get me wrong, you're the reason the Pacers are here. I'm not going to sit here and say you're not. But to say you're the MVP of that series is a massive disservice to Pascal Siakam.
Yep.
Pascal was there every single game, scored double figures every single game, was the one that literally was the most consistent player for you the entire time. And you had a game where you didn't even hit double figures. So no, you do not get the MVP. I'm sorry. Now you can make up for that and get finals MVP. That's obviously on the table. But no, I thought that was hilarious when he was sitting there. All right, we're going to announce the MVP, and he starts making his way to the front. I'm
like he was a key.
I would have, if I am Miles Turner, I grab him in the chest. And says, no, bud,
whoa.
Hold on,
bro. Calm down, bro.
We all know who this is going to.
Well, speaking of Halliburton, here's Halliburton talking about just making the NBA Finals.
It's a special feeling to do it with this group. We got to the same spot last year, fell short, and man, we just worked our tails off as a group to get back here. It's been a bumpy road with our start, and man, just really proud of the resilience of this group. We had so many different guys chip in. We've been through so many things this year, and we just kept pushing. And like I said, I'm just really proud of this group.
They made a fantastic move this last offseason to get back to this spot. And honestly, I keep wrapping my head around this, though. I don't know if they would have made it if they would have ran into Boston. Like, if Boston doesn't lose Tatum and, really have the series they had against the Knicks in general, let's be honest. It's not because of Tatum going down that they lost that series. But If Boston played to any bit of their ability against the Knicks, sent the Knicks home, and played the Pacers, I think this series would have been vastly different, and we probably would have saw another Boston finals appearance.
And I think that's one of the main topics we brought up when the playoffs started. It was all, even leading into the playoffs, we had talked about it's all going to be about seedings and these matchups. And I think you're right. I think that could have been a totally different series.
If we flip-flopped this and Boston was number 1 and Cleveland was number 2, there's a good chance that the Cleveland and Boston could have been the finals for sure. But honestly, like the way this Eastern Conference playoff run ended has been fantastic. Obviously, you had the top 4 teams regardless, and to see the Pacers make it out of there is pretty entertaining. I don't think the NBA is very happy about this, if I'm being honest, especially when it comes to marketability.
Good.
But I don't know. Like, this is just really cool to see, in my opinion, because I like small market teams winning. I enjoy that. And when it's always the big market team, it just bugs me. It seems like it's rigged. It seems like this is supposed to happen that way. It's like, no, that's not what sports are about.
And
So,
I hope it goes the same way this football season.
I agree.
Both of our teams aren't the marquee teams. But before we get away from basketball, and I got to throw out, we're going to have the Cal State women's coach Ari Weidman coming in at the top of the hour. She's got they've got some kiddie camps and some summer camps coming up for the kids.
And utilize these. I went to these my entire life. They're a lot of fun, and honestly, it's a great way if your kid wants to get better at basketball. If they take it seriously, it's a great way to do that.
It's the best way to learn the fundamentals,
I'm just
especially
saying.
with the coach. And I always enjoyed them because I got to play in an indoor court. I was like, cool.
Yup.
This
Get
is
you
the
out of
real
the
deal.
sun. Get you out of the sun for a couple days.
But before we step away from basketball, we talked about OKC being too young at the beginning of the playoffs. Was it much of a big surprise to you that OKC made it this far?
No. Again, OKC has been the best team in basketball all year long, so you kind of expected this. I am more surprised of how easily they got here. I thought for sure the West was at least going to give them a run, especially with teams like Denver and Minnesota. But they have, again, like I said at the beginning of our talks, like they've made every adjustment every single time they lose. They come out just absolutely on fire. You never really see them have a flat moment or one of those situations where they're not giving the effort they need. And they've really figured out this defensive thing. I think Anthony said it very well. I know everyone heard the AAU defense part, but 15 puppets on a string. It's honestly, it's 100% true. When you watch them play, they are in unison. They know what they need to do. There's a lot of shifting. There's not one guy sitting there overthinking his position saying, oh, I need to be here just in case homeboy. No, they are in unison. They trust each other. They know what they need to do to stop a team, and it works. It works every single time. And honestly, they know they're going to give up baskets. That's the nature of basketball. You're not going to keep a team to 0 points. But if you can keep them under 30% shooting, you have a dang good chance of winning. And I think that's really what the Thunder lean on defense. So I think that's what we're going to get this entire series.
Well, we'll talk about this and much more right after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
And we're also streaming on the Early Bird Specials YouTube channel. Check it out.
Oh, I hate this one so much. Okay.
Something's got to be going on, or I wouldn't be playing this. I promise.
I know exactly why you're playing this, and I'm glad we're getting into it. I can't stand Cardi.
Mhm.
I'll be the first to say it. I can't stand Cardi or Meg. I'll be the first. No. Welcome back. First off, welcome back to everybody. This, the reason Sparky is blasting some Cardi B for you guys on the radio right now is because we got some interesting news. So Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver for now the New England Patriots, former Minnesota Viking, and Buffalo Bill.
The Texan, right?
And Texan. Yeah, he was with the Texans. I always forget that because it was such a short stint and he had the ACL injury. He came out this weekend and announced his new girlfriend.
Probably not the best time to do that.
Oh, well, and this is coming after you know why he's doing this, because he needed to explain why he was on a boat with a pink powdery substance on a plate, handing it to women who are dancing on him. So in order to do that, I think him and his girlfriend, who we now know is the rap artist Cardi B, who's going through a divorce right now with another rap artist. I won't get into it. If you know, you know. But so he had to come out essentially, and they did an entire video package on social media announcing their relationship together that has apparently been going for quite some time. And that's why he was on the boat, because it's her boat apparently, and they were all partying together. Have we not learned? Do athletes just not learn? I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get wanting to, live out your dreams and be with the most beautiful woman and all that type of stuff. And who am I to say? Maybe they have a genuine thing. I don't know. But is this a good look for Stephon? Like, after all this video came out and stuff like that, and now nobody's surprised that you had to now come out about your public relationship with Cardi B because of all of this. But I don't know.
Did that make the story any better?
No.
I mean, did it look like that helped the story?
Like, honestly, I'm sitting here. If you're a New England Patriots fan, sorry, Kyle, but I'm worried. Because usually when these stories come out and there's distractions like this and there's new girlfriends, and especially when the new girlfriend is very popular. Although, who knows? Maybe her coming to New England Patriot games will be able to combat Taylor Swift. Maybe we'll see nothing but Cardi B instead this year, and everybody in the NFL fans can be mad about that. This entire thing is just ridiculous. But now I get it. Now I get where the pink powdery substance came from and all of this other stuff, because this is all going to come back on her and her posse now.
Of course.
It's all going to just go down to that. It wasn't his, it was hers. It's like,
I looked into his contract, because I was like, all right, well, what are the Patriots looking for? They've got Coach Vrabel, who came out and said, they'll take care of it inside and he'll talk to Stephon. But right now we're going to deal with the players that are here. Well, Diggs, like he said, is coming off a ACL injury, and he did sign a 3-year, $69 million contract with $26 million guaranteed, but those guarantees are conditional.
As most of these contracts are.
The Patriots, if they wanted to, could potentially cut the guy and really not have to pay much. And when I was digging into this story, he also hasn't taken his physical because he's coming off an injury. So that opens up a clause as one in the contract. The clause says he must avoid illegal or immoral conduct. The pink product. The video might give the Patriots a legal, proceed, but they need proof, is what the reporter had said. They need proof. I don't know if a video of showing just some pink powder is going to do enough. Well, obviously not.
Now let's also be honest here. It doesn't show him doing it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, he's just holding it.
He just busted out like he's the G, and he's passing
talking
it around.
about it, and I'm just, everybody's talking about it. I know we've talked about it, and we should specify he didn't take any of it on video. Video. Smart, very smart.
I mean,
it's not very smart, because there shouldn't be cameras out at all.
The video in the first place,
and this shouldn't be getting leaked ever. But hey, here we are. It's Cardi B and her homies. So you really expect that to go well for you there, Stephon? Really, really? but no, we're not learning. So I guess we're going to be going round and round on a merry-go-round with this. But I don't know. I think that the fact that he hasn't had a physical yet is more damning than the substance holding, because obviously there's no proof that he took it. And obviously you're going to have to take a drug test when you get back. But if as long as he passes that, there's no reason to say that he was doing anything wrong.
Well, that's what brings up the question is not only could they test him for that, but he's recovering from an injury, a serious injury, and he's probably not going to pass a physical with that injury.
And that's what I'm thinking.
So the Patriots are in a kind of a weird situation where they can force him to take the test, the physical,
Yeah.
and force him to do it earlier than they wanted to.
Yeah, and if his knee doesn't hold up,
and if he can't do it, then they can release him with the failed physical and not even have to touch the pink stuff.
right. Well, and I mean, it all really boils down to whether they would want to do that or not, because, or I'm sorry, it would, whether they want to do that or not boils down to if the really bottom dollar of how much he can help your team outweighs the problems.
So I was looking at their depth chart. So Diggs obviously the number one right now.
Yes.
But with Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, and Mac Hollins, pretty much the other three, and Kendrick Bourne
signed with them.
And he's been bouncing around the AFC East for his
he's been bouncing around a lot of teams for the last couple of years. He can never find a home, and he's fantastic.
I loved him in Miami.
I loved him in Atlanta.
He's the one that got us the win over the Raiders, and then he went to the Raiders, and then he went to the Bills. And I'm like, dude, I'm sick of seeing this guy in division games.
At this point, he's going to have more teams than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but that's a different topic.
But if you're the Patriots
again,
GM,
it really depends.
That's your best option.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head is how much are you willing to take? Because this is going to come with more. Like when you have this kind of a situation, especially with somebody who has a relationship with someone who's always in the limelight, like it's easy to say that, oh, Taylor makes it look good because Taylor isn't somebody who goes around and gets in trouble all the time or is known for doing some, sketchy things. This is not that kind of a situation. And honestly, with the girlfriend situation, the pink powdery substance, the partying on the boats when you should be at OTAs with your new team, at least, I don't know. And honestly, the no nonsense relationships that usually Vrabel keeps with his players and his coaches, I don't see this being a good sign for Stephon at all. I think Stephon's entire contract might be at jeopardy, not because he's dating Cardi B. Calm down. It's more about the entire situation with the boat, the partying, the substances, obviously putting negative light on yourself when you haven't even put on a uniform yet. Like, it's not a good look, dude. It really isn't. It's really not. And honestly, releasing your new relationship to disguise all that and distract people may work for a couple days, but when you come back to the facility, it's all coming home to roost regardless. It does not matter. And honestly, like, I know they're going to turn around and say, oh, it's Cardi B's friends. That's all it was. It was her friends wanting to do this. It was her doing it. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, as much as I don't care for her music or her as a person, from what I've heard stories and stuff like that, I don't know her, so I can't say I know her like that. But this isn't a good look, dude. Just the representation and the people that you're hanging around right now looks real bad in my opinion, but that's just me. I don't know. I can't speak on other people's relationships.
Well, good luck. I'm glad he's on the Patriots.
I have to agree.
We'll take this break. We got some other NFL news out of OTAs. Plus, we'll have Coach Ari Weidman coming on at the top of the hour. Plus, we have some breaking news that we have been teasing all weekend, but we'll get into that in the second hour. Feel free to text in anytime during the show with your comments or questions to 661-842-2000 right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. this is more my speed.
Well, in the NFL over the weekend, the 49ers are trading for edge rusher Bryce from the Eagles so he can team up back with Robert Sala. Sala.
Say less. Say less.
Well, he signed that 3-year deal with the Eagles in 2024, but underperformed with the 2.5 sacks.
Yeah, I don't know how good of an edge rusher you're getting out of this right now. And honestly, for the Eagles, it's no skin off their bones. We have plenty on the defensive front right now. I don't know. As if you're a 49er fan, obviously this is good for you because you need anything at the moment because you've had to let go of a lot in terms of edge rushers in the past couple years. And putting anybody next to Nick Bosa is probably going to be a little bit of an upgrade. I'd expect him to at least double the amount of sacks he's gotten with you guys, but who knows? It really just depends on, well, really, if he gets that starting spot because oh Lord, who is on the other side of Nick Bosa right now?
Well, they picked up that first round Michael Williams in the first round.
Yeah, Michael. I forgot about the rookie. So yeah, I think you're going to have to be probably beating out Michael Williams for that spot. And if he's anywhere as good as he was at Georgia, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck, because that kid was a monster. So, but I mean, this is again, much like the Jonnu trade last week, or talks of a Jonnu trade last week, because that hasn't gone through yet. It's just pieces that are needed that can't be filled with the free agents that are left, I would think. And if you can get a solid player for a minimal contract, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, and I sure hope I'm right, but I hope Miami doesn't trade Jonnu. I mean, he's on a cheap deal. He's under contract. And I mean, if you can get a pick or maybe some cornerback help,
right?
Because I know now it's post June 1st.
Yeah.
So now I would keep an eye out because I believe Ramsey's going to be traded in the next week or so. That saved Miami, I believe, $10 to $12 million to wait until after June 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've said there's 5 or 6 teams in the mix, but Jonnu was a key contributor, especially when Tyreek wasn't. So we'll see. I can see Miami. They're wanting to go young. And if you're going to sell somebody, you sell it when they're hot. And Jonnu was hot at his career year last year. So I understand the business side of it. But if you're looking to upgrade, you don't want to get rid of your tight end one.
Well, but are you willing to pay said tight end one as well? Is the other thing.
I personally think if I'm Miami, if I'm Chris Greer, I'm trading Ramsey and collecting that money, and then you're paying Jonnu.
Yeah, well, again, that would be the ideal situation, I think. But I don't know. I think maybe they think that his age and all that type of stuff is going to factor in the next couple of years. So that's probably why they would move off of him. I disagree. I agree with you, Spark. I think Jonnu is a fantastic tight end and has been for dang near every team he's played for. That's why the Pittsburgh Steelers are calling for him, because they know how good he's been in Arthur Smith's schemes in the past, and he can be again. So I think that this is probably the best time for you guys, though, to get those pieces that you need, especially the draft picks, or like you said, an added corner, maybe. Now you're not going to pull a Joey Porter Jr. out of this trade unless you throw some, backing behind the Jonnu Smith pick. But I think that this is a good opportunity for you guys to at least get a solid slot corner out of this, or like you said, a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, somebody that'll be a starter for your team in the next couple of years. But that's why I think you're going to see more of these trades in the next couple of weeks, because a lot of these teams are looking for those mid to late round draft picks and have players that aren't really producing for them, much like your Huffs with the Eagles going to the Niners. And I think that's why I think the Eagles specifically have proven and have shown themselves they can turn a 4th, 5th, 6th round draft pick into a star and make them a great player if they scout the right people. So it's really a win-win for you, I think, in the long run. Miami, I should say, if you do move on from Jonnu, or if you don't. Because if you don't move on from Jonnu, I think you still have a solid tight end for the next 2 to 3 years. But if you do move on from Jonnu, at least there's an opportunity out there to pick up a player that'll at least fill Jalen Ramsey's spot for a couple years. And if you can scout correctly, there's no reason to believe that he can't be the replacement for Jalen for the long term. So,
well, what do you think? Keeping it in Pittsburgh, TJ Watt skipping OTAs last week. Supposedly the Steelers throw out a better offer. It seems like it wasn't good enough because Watt still didn't show up. But he says he's looking for Myles Garrett type money, which I don't see happening.
no. Well, I mean, again, if there's anybody that deserves Myles Garrett money, it's TJ Watt. But that's why I'm confused why Pittsburgh won't give it to him. Like, really? This man is I think you pay him. I say pay him. If there are any players in the NFL that genuinely believe or deserve the money they get, it's TJ Watt. He could be an MVP on the defensive side of the ball. Do you know how valuable that is? Like, if you're going to sit there and tell me that Myles Garrett is worth more money than TJ Watt, I have to question your football
This
intelligence.
whole offseason with the Steelers has just been
Weird.
Scratching my head.
It's been very odd, and I don't know. We'll see. I think they ultimately get a deal done. At least I would hope so, because I swear if we see another Watt retire early, I'm going to be disappointed. We're losing some of the best defensive players to ever play. We got to take a break, though, and pay some bills. We'll be right back after the break with the CSUB women's basketball coach. now welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And I think I'm bad luck, Sparky.
Why?
I'm bad luck. Because anytime that I introduce a guest, it meant something happens. Something happens.
It was totally my bad. And with the heat, but I have Coach Weidman coming on Friday with MoneyWise. And I have her coming in this morning. And I told her in the email, and I should have followed up with her on Sunday, but she went to MoneyWise. So it's all good, because with the announcement that we're going to make here shortly, KG will be joining us Wednesday instead of Tuesday. So Coach Weidman will be here tomorrow morning at 8.
Fantastic. I'm starting to feel that way, man. I have bad voodoo on me. I don't know who's got the hoodoo, but I got the voodoo, and it's not very good. It's not fun. It's not fun.
Well, before we get into anything else, the Harvick race.
Fantastic.
Harvick pulled out the first
heat races, I guess you could say. It was a lot of fun to watch that too. Keelan, his son, was right behind him in second place. What really got interesting, though, was the actual 150 lap race that we got to watch after that, which was, albeit like I'm a casual. I'm not a huge race guy, so the most I know is Dale Earnhardt Jr., Gordon, and Kevin. To be honest with you, that's it. But watching this was a lot of fun. Kevin led throughout the majority of this race, along with I believe it was the number 22 car, if I'm not mistaken. But like we said at the beginning of the show, gets spun out at the last 5 laps. Again, are you feeling a little bit like me though? Like that kind of feel a little.
You guys, we're going for the boy.
It's like I think so. I think they sat there and said, you know what, Kevin, it's time for the youngin to take over, because they all 3 of them, after fighting for and jockeying for a position after turn 1, clipped, I believe 22 clipped Kevin, which spun him out, clipped number 16, who was quickly catching up to the group as well. And the 3 of them spun out and were taken out of the race. Kevin tried to keep going afterwards, but the car wasn't keeping up.
Yeah, and then they did the 5-6 lap shootout at the end, and
in which Keelan was in the front of, because majority of this race, he was actually back in like 4th or 5th, believe it or not. He was actually slacking a little bit. And then him and the name of the girl that was driving next to him escapes me, but they jockeyed it out for the first 2 to 3 laps. Keelan ends up taking it and wins round 1 of the Battle of the Harvicks of 8, if I'm not mistaken, from what Kevin told us last week. It was a lot of fun. Sparky got his food for before his big diet started
day number 2, baby.
How was that going?
It's a lot of water.
A lot of water.
Yep.
Fun.
No sweet tea like I'm used to.
I'll just be over here sipping my Gatorade.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Actually, day 1 wasn't too bad. I got up early. We don't have a big backyard, so, and how our backyard is shaped, we have like a long rectangle in our backyard, and our backyard is more of the big trees in the back, so we don't have room for a big pool or anything. So I got a above rectangle pool from Walmart, and got up early with the wife and put that together. And now, after about 6 hours of water, we had to wait 6 hours for it to fill up.
Yep.
Luckily, we found a cool show to watch on Netflix that I'll bring up after we finish it tonight. But it was a good weekend. I hit Trader Joe's and got some healthy snacks. But I was surprised. For the first week, I believe we skipped breakfast, which I'm used to anyway.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
And then around lunchtime is really when I get my appetite. And I think I ate trail mix, and we made salmon last night, which was bomb. And I ate 2 salmons, but yeah, it's day 2, so it's gonna be a long road. But cutting out sodas and tea was really the problem.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big one, because honestly, that's where most of my weight fell off. But I believe in you, my friend.
It's water weight.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But with SmackDown coming to town on Friday, Friday.
Very excited to be down there too. And if you are down at the show, come find us. We'll be out in our early bird special shirts and stuff like that. Love to come talk to you guys and see everybody. That'd be great. But unfortunately, the world of wrestling was shocked and absolutely destroyed yesterday when everybody got the news that Ron Killens, aka R-Truth, a long-standing wrestler of 17 years with the company, is being let go from the company for the first time in quite some time. Now, again, this man is in his 60s. We talked about him not too long ago because he was able to wrestle John Cena for the or not for the championship. I'm sorry, it was in a PLE. But the entire wrestling world is talking about this as if this man is dead. He made the announcement himself. They're just not renewing his contract, and I don't know. I'm gonna get real for a sec here. I love R-Truth. I grew up watching R-Truth, and Carlito as well, who is another person that was aging that they will not be renewing his contract. Can we just understand that this is a business? Like, can we stop attacking wrestling as a whole because your guy got let go? Look, everybody loves the old guys. Everybody loves your Ric Flairs, your R-Truths, and the guys who have been in the industry forever. And you've given us a countless amount of memories. Nobody is denying that. But why are we talking about this as if this guy's dead? Like, he has opportunities to still wrestle if he wants to. He's just not going to be with the company anymore. And we've had people reach out to us on our social media and stuff like that and ask if this is a retirement or if this is a release. He's actually not even being released from his contract. They're just not renewing it. Much like in most entertainment industries, if your contract comes up and they just don't want to pay you another one, they just tell you, hey, we're not going to renew your contract. Sorry, but your employment with us is no longer valid. It's void. We're going to have to move on. And the company is trying to move on to younger talent and to talent that they can grow again and, keep up this amazing product that they have built. So I don't know. I get the cries of, oh my God, our guy is gone. But can we tone it down on social media? Like, I'm starting to feel like most of this is just like funeral pyre. Like, this is weird. I don't know why we're talking about this as if this man has passed. Like, he's still a mainstay in wrestling as a whole. In fact, he was better on the indies. He was much better at WCW level. Like, he wasn't a comedic wrestler for the majority of his career. Like, it was actually a lot of fun watching him wrestle when he was taking it seriously. I don't know. I'll get into this a little bit more with our boy 24KG because he probably has a lot more to say about this than I. But the world of wrestling was shook yesterday, and that's just kind of where we're at. And everybody is very, very angry again at Paul Levesque and the WWE front offices. And I'm like, dude,
with all this young talent, I mean, I thought it was kind of a cool setup that he got to fight Cena. And
now whether that was his last hurrah and they did that on purpose, I have no idea.
And see, I read a lot of rumors. I know people were pissed at Triple H, but I mean, it is a business, like he said, and we might see him again. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and fought the Miz here in a couple months or something.
That's exactly what I told our guy Chris Flail the other day when he texted in. It was like, look, dude, think of it this way. We're without R-Truth for a year, 2 years. Maybe he does something on the indies, AEW, whatever. He continues his career if he wants to. Again, this man's in his 60s. He still looks great, but he's in his 60s. Like, you can't be doing this forever. So at some point we will see him back. I would not doubt that at all. Even if it was like a behind the scenes job for the WWE, maybe he helps build and train the talent.
Maybe he gets his own show.
Yeah.
They're popping out left and right.
Exactly. So why not wait a year? Because I mean, what better way do we get like the love that we want than when you take it away from us for a while, and especially in wrestling, and then they come back a year or two later and you get the massive pop that everybody has been waiting to give him since the release. So I honestly think this is going to be fine. And for everybody to be so up in arms and stuff about it, I think it's ridiculous. You have to remember this is a business at the end of the day, and it's not an easy way to do it. No one likes seeing releases and stuff like that, especially when you have friends and stuff like that you work with. But at the end of the day, you have to remember there are other people coming in.
Tons of them.
Much like you're watching the NFL, myself as a Falcons fan, did I want to see Julio Jones go? Hell no. But do I understand that you need to get out of the way for the Drake Londons of the world? Yeah. Yeah, you do. Eventually, you have to get out of the way. I think that's a problem in our society today, especially in politics. People don't want to get out of the way. And that's where we are. You have to let go of nostalgia at one point and bring in what's new. Change is okay sometimes. Just let it go.
And it looks like they're going to let Carlito go here in a couple weeks as well, as his contract is runs out in 2 weeks.
We were just talking, I don't think we brought it up online or on air, but we were just talking about that the other day. He hadn't been in a match in months.
Yeah, I was starting to think he had some serious injury or
Yeah,
something.
he was just kind of the comedic relief, like, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but that's kind of what R-Truth is boiling down to as well. So are you really going to pay these guys millions of dollars just to sit there and not wrestle?
Be the comic relief.
No, we can get the same comedic relief from people who are wrestling. So you have to make a business decision at the end of the day. And unfortunately, sometimes these guys have to, you got to move on. You really do at some point. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents about
Well,
this.
we got a text regarding wrestling. It says, I loved R-Truth, but he was getting up there in age. Real question, though, is what are your thoughts on Cardi B hosting SummerSlam?
Oh, God. Don't get me started. Look, I already said my piece. I don't care for Cardi. I don't care for Cardi's music. Okay. I'm not a Cardi B fan. And honestly, I'm kind of with I'm with the wrestling world that we don't need a hip hop artist at every turn. We don't need Travis Scott. We don't need Cardi B. No one asked for this. That's why I'm like, that commercial bugs me, because the entire premise of her thinks I'm finally like, anybody asked for you.
Yeah, we were waiting.
We were waiting. Oh, yeah. Everyone was begging for Cardi to come and do it. No, just like Sexy Red and all that in the NXT. No one asked for you. Go away. Like, if you're a fan, I get it. Don't get me wrong. If you're like, Burt Kreischer.
And see, that's another one.
Yeah, Segura being on was wild, especially after
pissed.
all the stuff he like.
So what did he say?
On his podcasts forever ago, and I can't remember who he does this with. It's a female comedian, but he went off on how dumb he thinks wrestling is and how dumb he thinks wrestling fans are specifically. Like, he's like, if you're a wrestling fan, you're an effing idiot. You're blah, blah, blah. Like, he slandered us.
So now I understand why they were so pissed.
He was slandering them. And honestly, that's what kind of made it funny to me, because it's like, I knew he didn't want to be there. Like, you could tell Tom did not want to be there, but he had to because it was his Netflix obligation. And these are the things you're going to run into with this entire Netflix partnership. You're going to have these guys show up that are, not wrestling fans, but they have to show up because their thing is coming out on Netflix.
It's promotion, yep.
Exactly. But Burt Kreischer that's why Burt was there, because Burt needed to even that out, because Burt is a fan.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you get guys like Burt, if Burt was hosting SummerSlam, all for it. I'm excited. That is awesome. Heck yeah. We don't need Cardi.
No.
We don't need Cardi. We don't need Megan. We don't need any of those people. We really don't. Like, and honestly, if there's one fan base and one sports fan base that craves and demands authenticity, it's wrestling fans. And they can sniff out a phony so quick. And honestly, I think this move is going to have a lot of fans mad, because they're going to sniff out a phony.
Oh, yeah.
She ain't a fan.
No.
She is not a fan. I've never once seen Cardi B at a WWE show, and you can't sit there and tell me she didn't have opportunity or money to go to one. This isn't Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, so and SummerSlam's 2 nights, right?
Yep. And that's my point, is that you're going to host something for 2 nights. Fans aren't going to like it. They may boo her worse than NFL fans boo Roger Goodell.
Or how they booed Hogan.
Yep.
That would be hilarious.
They
I would
genuinely might, especially if they don't like it, because a lot of these fans are getting annoyed with that. They're not. I get WWE is the entertainment business, and that's why they're making these moves. But after a while, you're going to just sour the taste of your fan base, and they're not going to be okay with it.
And we do have a wrestler coming on this Wednesday, but you have to wait until after the break, because they also just released who's going to be on the cover of Madden this year. Any guesses?
Did they really?
Just now.
Oh, God.
We'll wait for it.
Yeah, I have to mull over my choices.
You have a couple minutes. Text it in. Who do you think is on the cover of the new Madden? And do you believe in the Madden curse?
And no cheating.
661-842-2000. This is the Early Bird Special. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Can't see it once you walk up the table right
Listen, said, is Tippy going to be there Friday?
now. In person, no. Unfortunately not. She's got a very busy schedule, but we will
No,
have
on Friday with SmackDown.
Oh, on Friday, yes. Yeah, of course she will. She's the women's champion. She will most likely be here on Friday. Again, I would assume you're going to see dang near everybody on Friday. That's why if you're a wrestling fan, a WWE fan in general, yeah, you need to be at this show.
Yeah.
This is
You
the
want to
show.
see Cena?
Outside of WrestleMania, usually Money in the Bank is where you see everybody. And honestly, with us being the show right before it, is where all the best promos happen, all the interactions happen. You get to see who doesn't like who, and we're gonna have a really good show. I think it's gonna be a very, very entertaining SmackDown before Money in the Bank on Saturday. So if you are a fan, I would expect to see you there, to be honest with you. And yes, Tiffy will most likely be there as well. But real quick, before we get out of college sports, before we move on, we need to get into college sports. There's been a handful of stories that have broken over the weekend, including a handful of upsets in the College World Series as Vanderbilt, number 1 seed, and number 2 seed Texas were both knocked out in the regional round, which is the beginning of this entire dang thing. For those of you who don't know how the College World Series works, teams are broken up into groups of 4 to begin, and then it's a double elimination round. Vanderbilt lost once to Wright State, who is a unknown team, and once, I believe, to Louisville early, thus knocking them out. And then Texas had the same situation happen to them. So this is the first time, and actually the earliest the number 1 seed has been knocked out of the tournament, I think, ever. So it's one of those types of situations. It's really ugly for Vanderbilt, but they're still a great team. A lot of those players will be going on to the league and most likely have been drafted, if not will be drafted. So I wouldn't necessarily expect them to take a big hit from this. Although the story I want to talk about, because this one I don't understand, Sparky, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this as well. So in the College Women's World Series, there was a game between number 7 Tennessee and number 9 UCLA yesterday that ended in Tennessee winning 5-4 in extra innings. However, getting to that point, UCLA had to hit a home run in the 7th to take it into extra innings to tie the game. The big controversy here is the player that hit the home run went around the bases, but then missed home plate because she was celebrating with her team. Her team was all out there to celebrate with her and stuff, and she oversteps home plate.
No run.
Well, see, and here's the thing. So they're walking back. She did go back and touch home plate, though. But here's the thing. She was assisted by a player that wasn't a runner, which is against the rules. You're not allowed to do that. However, the umpire voided the call because you cannot review it. It's a non-reviewable call, so therefore they couldn't overturn the home run.
So he just didn't do his job?
Well, no, see, here's my thing. And I'm glad you're on that side because I'm on the opposite. I don't know. For me, it's a home run. Who cares? To be honest with you, if you hit a home run, I don't think you need to round the bases. You should just sit there at home plate and watch everybody else come in, and then you touch home plate and you go back in. I know it's a traditional thing, but what else is a home run than an automatic run? So why are we complaining?
It's an automatic run if you touch all the bases.
No, that's fair. That's why I'm saying, I get why, the traditional, you have to touch all the bases and you have to hit home plate. I'm more saying that as a sidebar thing.
Yeah.
My argument is it's a home run. It already counts as a run. Why are we complaining and saying that the run shouldn't count? First and foremost, I get it. She was assisted back to the bag. It's not supposed to be allowed. I totally understand that. And actually, you can assist the player back to the bag if you were a runner. But unfortunately, it was a player who wasn't a runner. It was just a teammate that was celebrating with them, who rightfully so, she just hit the game-tying home run. You should go out and celebrate with your teammate. I just kind of find it ridiculous that Tennessee is up in arms about this.
They're just pissed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you gave up a home run, dude.
I get both sides of it. I mean, I played baseball for a long time growing up, and we had the traditional rules. That was always a big thing if they didn't touch a base. It was always second base for some reason that they never touched.
Right? It's
But
the weird one.
it's like the
First and third were
I was
automatically
like,
just puts
okay.
on the line.
But it brings up another rule, because I remember a game that came into mind or came into play. We played out at JBA out by Sam Lynn,
Mhm.
and we also had, our big fat chunky dude that always hit all the homers.
Yeah, Big Al, Big
And
Dinger.
I was the short, third baseman that would outrun everybody.
Mhm.
But there was the same rule that, if I had to slow down if the slow guy in front of me, so if I hit a double, I had to
Yeah.
wait at third base, like, come on, boy, let's go.
Yeah, get the let out.
And it's the same. I mean, it's traditional, but I get both sides. I mean, your play shouldn't come to an ending like that. If that's what you're going to complain about, how about, you win in extra innings, but
Right. Which is what
that's
happened.
That's hilarious.
Ball don't lie. You won in extra innings. You won in
Mhm.
9. But I don't know. My biggest gripe is just how up in arms the coach was that they didn't go their way. She hit a home run. The run is going to count regardless, sweetheart. I don't know what you're crying about. Like, if this was a situation where they hit a double or something like that and she was coming home and made it, I totally understand your gripe. That's an out. Like, there's no way that should count. But this was a home run. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but home run usually means bases cleared, automatic runs, and everybody starts over, right?
It's in the name.
It's in the name. So the fact that we're sitting here griping and crying about it, I know you won, so it really doesn't matter. But give the girl her run. It's a home run. Like, the fact that you're sitting there complaining and wanted a challenge in the first place is stupid.
I bet
I'm
she never
sorry.
does that again, though.
No, I bet you you're right, and I bet you that girl never misses home plate ever again. But it was also like her first hit in quite some time. She had been struggling, and she got first pitch dinger. I'm like, dude, you can't write that better in baseball, man. Like, why are you? I get being competitive, but this is just ridiculous. It just, I just found it so dumb that we had to sit there for 20 minutes while the umpire
They fought over it.
fought out. Yeah, like they were fighting with the umpire over it. He's like, dude, it's not reviewable. I don't know what you want me to tell you. That is not a reviewable play. So I cannot change it. I'm sorry. Like, he even admitted to it. He's like, yeah, she didn't do it and she was assisted back. So technically it would be an out. But
we don't review
that. So there's not much I can tell you. So it's like, you got to just get over it, dude. I'm sorry. And I'm not even a UCLA fan, but I just found that to be a little ridiculous. But what do you guys think? 661-842-2000. I don't know if you saw the video. If you can't see the video, it's probably all over ESPN. It was talked about all day yesterday. But if you think that they should have called that an out, if you think Tennessee should have been given the game before extra innings, feel free to text in and tighten me up. I just don't think. I thought it was ridiculous. I think it's a home run. It's an automatic home run. I don't care if you hit home plate or not. I really don't. That ball ain't coming back, so I ain't looking for it. I just found that to be a little ridiculous.
So was there any news coming out? I know we talked about the college football playoffs changing, and then I saw a couple days later everybody was complaining. There was certain, divisions or conferences arguing about it. Has there been any changes with that?
Not major changes. They're still trying to pass the 5+11 format that they're doing, which is basically the 5 major conference winners would automatically get bids, plus the other 11 top teams in the NCAA football brackets. There's not a whole ton that has changed so far. Right now, I believe they're still waiting on the SEC to be the final straw of how this is going to go down. The only thing that I know for sure is that the committee, in terms of picking the other 11, are strongly considering your strength of schedule as being a thing, which is why a lot of these teams and conferences are mad, because a lot of them don't play your SECs, ACCs, Pac-12s, which congratulations to the Pac-12. You just got Boise State this morning as well. It's a huge pickup. I find this to be a valid argument, though. I think that a lot of these smaller teams are going to get left out, much like they were worried they were going to get left out. And I think that's what's kind of holding things up, is you got to find a way to at least get rid of the bias that is the NCAA voting committee, because when it comes down to it, they will vote in 8 SEC teams and maybe one of each of the rest and call that a valid pick. You cannot sit there and tell me that all of the SEC is better than all of the Pac-12, all of the ACC. I know a lot of them could be, but all of them is ridiculous. So I do kind of agree that if you're going to be focusing on strength of schedule, that's fair. but you also need to focus on how well these guys do against their schedule, because I find it a little ridiculous that if we're going to go off strength of schedule, we're just going to have SECs. That's it. Because that's all people see in college football is SEC is the top dog. And if they're all playing each other, that automatically makes their strength of schedule harder than everybody else's, right?
Yeah, right.
So it just, I think you need to find a way to curb the bias that is the NCAA voting bracket or channel, whatever you want to call it.
How they
That's the
look at
biggest problem.
playoffs. Well, let's take a break. We'll wrap up the show. We've got some baseball news to go over, and I've got a couple of texts that some listeners, Dodger fans, text in during this break right here. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, final segment of the day. Thank you all for joining us. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9. Once again, we'll be talking to CSUB women's basketball coach Ari Weidman about a handful of their upcoming basketball camp. You can get you and your teams in on, because there are team ones too. Not just your little one. If they have a basketball team, or maybe their entire team wants to get in on the action, they have entire camps for that. And it actually will probably help you guys out in terms of, looking better during the season. So you never know. And they are very, very well priced as well. I want to throw that out there. It's not going to break your bank to do these. I promise you. But there's a handful of stories that we got to get to before we get out of here. What do you want to start with? You want to start with Bill or Zion?
What's going on with Bill?
So Bill Belichick is back in the news only because his buyout for his contract has substantially lowered as of Saturday, and it's a good thing for him. So for those of you who don't know how these contracts work, there are actual buyout costs for coaches specifically. For instance, Ryan Day for the Ohio State Buckeyes would have to pay, I think, about $6 million if he ever wanted to just leave the team. Now, if he got fired, that's a completely different situation. But if you just want to leave and you're fed up with it, you don't want to work here anymore, he would actually have to pay the school a certain amount of money to do that. Bill Belichick had that clause in his contract as well, going into UNC at $10 million until Saturday, where it dropped to a grand total of, Spark, you want to make a guess?
$5
million. So at this point on, for the rest of his contract, if Bill Belichick ever wanted to, he could leave the University of North Carolina, just quit, pay the university $1 million, and void the rest of his contract. And
so is that going to open up the window of people thinking he comes back to the NFL?
That's exactly why it was put into his contract to be left this early, because it gave him an out just in case he wanted or got an offer from an NFL job that he wanted to go to. So yes, that's exactly what the thought process is. And honestly, that's what a lot of these coaches do. It just doesn't usually drop that dramatically this quickly. It usually takes about a couple years for that to go away. You'll get maybe you'll start with an 8, and then after a year, it drops about $1.5 million per year until your contract is inevitably up, and you can either talk about a new one or just move on.
So when's he going back to Cleveland?
That's the big question. Yeah. When's he going to the Raiders? You know what I mean? This is going to be a round and round conversation when it comes to Bill Belichick for the rest of his life. Really, I think, especially with guys like Pete Carroll coming back and coaching the Raiders, you got nothing but people wondering, how long is it going to take for Coach Bill to come back? How much money is it going to take for Coach Bill to come to the NFL? This is just it's going to be a constant talking point forever. But
I could see him going to Cleveland.
The other side of the coin as well, though, is if, like we were talking about the other day, with this entire new lifestyle that Bill is living with his new girlfriend turned fiance, that is now a business partner at the same time, because that's such a great idea, Bill. That's such a great idea. Go talk to any divorcee and tell them the same thing. I just think this is going to become a big talking point too, because when's the levy break going to be for the Tar Heels? When the higher ups on that board for the Tar Heels going to say, you know what? This is too much.
Yeah, let's push him out.
We can't do this anymore. It's just too much. His girlfriend is too much. We can't handle this anymore, and just move on from it all. So that is also on the table that you have to worry about too if you're a Tar Heel fan. So just that is now lingering. There is no ideas or mentions that he would ever leave right now. So I don't think that is even on the table. However, just know that we could easily see Bill Belichick at any point in time get a contract from the NFL for, say, I don't know, $20 million for however amount of years, that he can then go and take $1 million of, hand it over to the people at University of North Carolina and say, bye. Peace out, Lombo. I'm out. Hope you can figure this out, Lombardi, because I couldn't. And I just move on from all that. The other major story that we didn't get to last week, and honestly, I'm kind of happy we didn't, because I wanted to wait a little bit just to see the details come out a little bit more about this. But Zion Williamson last week was accused of rape. Hard R, I know, I apologize, but it is what it is. The entire situation is boiled around an old girlfriend, quote unquote, that he had back in his Duke days when he was a freshman, that extended into his NBA career and apparently ended in 2023. She has been known as Jane Doe. She is not giving her identity out. And it is basically just saying that he was abusive, controlling, hit her, the whole nine, the hard R on multiple occasions, in which that his agent apparently dropped her off at his place on a couple occasions where this happened. So I don't know exactly what the truth is yet. He is adamantly denying all of it and is planning countersuits as well. That's where I think the big case is right there. Usually you don't hear about them countersuing. You don't see the defamation suits immediately. It's like, that's where I think this might actually be untrue. And I don't want to like cast aspersions or anything. That's why I want to leave it at that, because these situations are very sticky. We realize, I hope this is something that gets resolved and is not the truth. You would always hope that when it comes to somebody with such talent and such great, from what we understand, I have not seen Zion act out as not a model citizen in real life or in everyday life. So you would hope that this isn't the case, but you never know how people are behind closed doors. So until we find out the rest, I'm going to leave it at that. But this is just the information we know. And
not another week goes by we don't hear something about something like that.
That's what I'm saying too, is that we're at an all-time high when it comes to this kind of stuff. Your Shannon Sharps, your, Skip Baylesses, your et cetera, Like, I mean, it comes out, like you said, once a week, it seems like. And that's why I want to hold my judgment on any of this before casting aspersions on either side, because we don't know exactly what happened behind closed doors. But everybody has their story. So let's hear from all sides, because there's three sides to every story. There's his side, her side, and then there's the truth.
Yep.
So we'll find out as time comes.
Our truth.
Yep.
Well, we have 2 texts to wrap up the show. The first one says, "Told you guys, go blue, and Ohtani shouldn't be pitching this season. We all be watching him pitch on eggshells."
Oh, Lord. I know a lot of Dodger fans believe that. I think you need him. I think you need him in that rotation. That's just me. But again, what's funny is I saw a poll over the weekend too. I think it was from ESPN or it was from Bleacher Report, asking people, who would you rather have, Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge? If anybody picked anything but Shohei Ohtani, you are lying to yourself. This man pitches and hits home runs. Judge just hits home runs. Let's be honest.
The last one said, "Nobody better say any more about how Dodgers are the worst fan base. Have you seen these Yankee fans over the week of
I compared you to Yankee fans. That was the comparison.
Tomato.
So clean it up and we could talk about it, okay? That's all I'm saying. Win with some grace. And honestly, I like what I saw out of you guys this weekend. I called it as well. If you saw the end of our show last week, I said go blue. So there you go. You got an 18-2. But that's all we got for you guys today. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. as usual. Once again, Coach Ari Weidman will be joining us at 8 o'clock. Talk about their camps coming up this week. Sparky, we got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Let's get out of here.